now we're going to talk about the GEM 286. This is full AT, and it is bloody huge. GEM 286 was manufactured by GEM Computer Products of Norcross, Georgia, back sometime around 1989, 1990 is my guess. GEM was the military branch of Micro Equipment Corporation in Norcross, Georgia. They also owned a series of stores called C.MORE, C.MORE, the New Vision, back in the late 80s, which I vaguely have a vague memory of walking past one. And maybe even seeing a computer marketed as C.MORE. I kind of regret not picking that thing up. That was over a decade ago. Anyway, it's got the typical AT features. You have the key lock, which turns off the keyboard. This was a security feature back in the old day of offices. You had a little set of barrel keys and you stuck them in there and you turned it and stopped your keyboard from working. I'm trying really hard to hold this camera still. You have your turbo button, which doesn't actually make the computer go faster. When you press that button, what it does is it actually slows it down. And then this little orange LED here by turbo turns off. And it indicates your computer is running in a mode that's compatible with the original IBM PC, or just running at least somewhat slower, so it'll actually run something older that doesn't have speed throttling. Over here's your reset button. Does pretty much what any reset button does on any PC up till today. You just hit it and it does a hard reboot. It's like if you crash or lock up. Almost never have to use it on this except recently, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Up top here you have your green power LED, that's usually the color, amber turbo, and red for hard drive read-write. This whole area here that's covered up, that is where your hard drive is located on an AT clone like this, where you only have the 2 or 3 drives on this side. And then on this side we have I can't remember the brand, but it's a SCSI CD-ROM drive, a Epson floppy disk drive, 144 meg, 3.5 inch, and a 1.2 meg, 5.25 inch TAC. Yeah, and that's all the drives on this system. This is one of my longer owned systems, so let's take a look at it for this YouTube video. So as you can see, I have it marked CreepingNet 286. There's the GEM tag with the serial number, indicates it's mine. It's got a fairly recent replaced Magitronic power supply, 200 watt. It's brand new. I switched it out because it's the one I had built using a baby AT power supply stuck in an AT housing. The fan started getting noisy and it needs major cleaning, so I'm just switched them out so I can go ahead and use this for the time being. Over here, like many white box clones, you have all these open slots for DB25 and DB9 connectors for serial and parallel ports. Your standard DIN5 AT keyboard connector over here. Looking at what's in the slots from the back, right here's nothing. Right here's our SCSI card. You can see it's got the external SCSI connector on it. Parallel port, serial port, nothing there. And then I have my Sound Blaster card, Ethernet LAN card, which is plug and play, and surprisingly plug and play has worked on this computer before. Really strange. And a 1 megabyte SVGA card. Yes, I run SVGA on a 286. Let's pop her open and take a look. And here's the GEM 286 with the front cover open. Let's take a look around. Right here you have your pretty bog standard AT clone case panel. What I find funny, and this is the reason why I've figured out that I think Songcheer made cases for the GEM machines, is because my other machine has the same bloody kind of connection or attachment for the plate. Now I did have another GEM a few years ago. It actually screwed directly flat onto here. That one mimicked Compact Desk Pro and was a totally different design. Right here we have a 1 gigabyte Digital Equipment Corporation SCSI hard drive. This came out of a Gateway 2000 P166 machine. Over here, of course, you can see my CD-ROM. You can kind of tell that's SCSI, of course, because it's got the wider 50-pin cable. That's the audio connector, so yeah, I can play audio CDs on this 286, and they'll play through the speakers. There's the power supply. I think this is a later model AT power supply, because it's actually a bit smaller than the other ones. There's a mounting hole for the earlier ones that were sort of L-shaped and went over. This is kind of the joke of GEM, though. GEM always used these oversized full AT cases, but they always used baby AT motherboards. And people go, but isn't that full AT? That's full length. I'm like, yeah, but it's not full width. AT motherboards go all the way over to here. You have all this extra space over here that would be covered over by an older power supply. The GEM actually does have some history on it because I've had this computer for well over 10 years. Looking down here, you can see where I have 2 electrolytic capacitors that I installed. Those were to replace the tantalum, the brown capacitors there by the power supply cable that fried. The first day I had this computer, I had one actually flame up and shoot out of the case. I had another one that fried like 10 years ago, and I was like, oh my god, my motherboard's dead. And then when I finally looked at the motherboard, I saw another one of those tantalum capacitors had fried, so I stuck a set of electrolytics on there. I just figured, if nothing else, they might even just be installed backwards, but whatever. It's the most stable system I've ever freaking seen. This thing rarely ever crashes. I pull this out of the way without disturbing my cables. Right down here we can see the processor and the coprocessor and the CMOS battery. How did that come disconnected? CMOS battery is one of those stupid coin cell jobs that solders to the motherboard, but I see it's silk screened for a CR2302, so I may later install a CR2302 battery holder in here. That's what I like. I like to basically future-proof my PCs by putting modern parts on the system board or wherever to make them, so then I don't have to go through, oh crap, I need to find this obscure battery that was made back in like 1988 and I can't find it anywhere. Oh man, well, you need a new motherboard, dude. Yeah, right there is the AMI BIOS chip. Or, no, that's actually the keyboard controller, I think. I don't know. It's one of the American Megatrends chips. This has got an American Megatrends BIOS in it. That's the Intel 286 10 megahertz, which runs at 12 megahertz because of this guy over here that I pulled from a 12 megahertz IBM PS2 Model 70 with a bad motherboard. It's an ITT 80C or 802C87 math coprocessor. So it's a 287, but I think it's like a low power version. But it works, and it works great. My controller card for SCSI is an Adaptec controller card. Right here you can see the hard drive LED header coming off of it right here. It's also a floppy controller, so I was able to totally forego using a floppy controller for anything else in here. I just prefer that. Right there. Oh yeah, this is something you'll see in my other machines with Sound Blaster cards. See at this connector, although it's come loose with the case being open. This is a connector that I use to actually connect my sound to my sound card. Almost all these Sound Blaster cards have a little 2-pin header here that passes the internal speaker output through the sound card. So almost all my vintage DOS machines have disabled internal speakers. Like if you look up front here, that I never use that. I pass it all through here. And speak of the devil, I probably should also reconnect this guy while I'm at it. And this is my sound card controller header for the CD-ROM. There we go. Now I'll just route it down neatly down there. So yeah, I'm doing a little repairs, cleaning and stuff while I'm doing this. The motherboard is an Octec motherboard. I don't know if you can see the logo back there. Octec revision 5.1, 286 motherboard. It has the DIP memory and SIM memory. I have 4 megabytes of RAM in here, plus 2 megabytes on this RAMPAT Acculogic RAMPAT AT card right here. Right here is a 1 megabyte ET4000 SVGA card. And there's the American Megatrends even odd BIOS, G2 chipset, dip switch configuration, determine where you have math coprocessor or not, and clock speed and all that fun stuff. Yeah, and there's my multi-IO card with its bashed up ID or whichever connector that is. which I'm only using just for the serial port because this computer runs Windows and it runs it really well for a 286. This is also the one, if you see my old channel, just Creeping Net, this was the computer that was doing 286 internet years ago. It was a little differently configured. It's probably a much better machine now, but, you know. Anyway, we'll do some software stuff next. And here's the 286 gem in hardware. So I'm using the internal speaker because the pass-through's not working. There's some things I probably won't be able to show on here because this computer is actually not working at the moment. Not fully, at least. I've got an IRQ conflict that I need to fix between the sound card and something else, so I can't use Windows and all that. But we'll go into normal mode and run it all. So Quadtel, it loads my host adapter and my CD-ROM drive. So yeah, my CD-ROM, it works just fine. Yeah. Well, right here it's hanging, so yeah. Like I showed you, I have an IRQ conflict or some kind of conflict with the SCSI card and that sound card right now. So they'll work just fine. I mean, for normal average stuff, but it's just the nature of it. We might do that in a future video, show how to diagnose IRQ and other conflicts by mapping out the memory addresses and the interrupt request lines on the computer so we can figure out what's wrong. Anyway, we're going to go through here. I'm just going to run in safe mode, no drivers loaded. Most of the games already have their own drivers anyway. Ultima. Or actually this one now, I've changed the directory structure on it since so. So here you can see Ultima 6 running on it. And here it goes. And it runs alright. It's not too amazing, but it runs. I think I hear something to the southeast. Yeah, it runs about like a 286 would, running Ultima 6 too, so. Alright, we got a little fight going with the birds. This is just to show you it's working. Alright, well, we're gonna exit to DOS and go. That's utility. Alright, let's look at an MSD. So, just trying to show off the specs. So here it is in Microsoft Diagnostics. I didn't show this on the Tandy, but I showed it on this one, so it's a good way to show what the hardware is. You can hear that SCSI hard drive just growling away. MSD is examining your system. Indeed it is. Yeah, so as you can see, computer itself is a American Megatrends, branded by the BIOS. No BIOS revision given. ID bytes. Got a 1989 BIOS in it. Processor is an 8286 with a 287. Enhanced keyboard, classic bus, all that, blah blah blah. Memory 640K plus 552832 bytes. Yeah, it's oh no, I mean 5584K. Been a while. Correct yourself, Mikey. Here, there's my Sang ET4000 graphics card. It's got a 91 BIOS state, Super VGA 1 meg, really nice. No network. It has a game adapter, but the game ports aren't in it. Disk drives, A, B, and C. One parallel port, one COM port, Windows. I've actually got multiple versions of Windows, but the one it's finding is Windows 3.1, which I have on here along with 3.0, 2.03, and 1.01. Right now it's building a manifest based off all the files. So it just kind of shows you what the computer is. I mean, shows you how it boots and what it does. Alright, so I guess I'll leave you a little classic Dazzle screensaver on the way out.